Hi, I'm Bruce Randall, and today on the AI Human Paradox, we have a guest of L.A. Marzulli. And L.A. is known as a well-known author, a lecturer, and filmmaker who's made significant contributions to the study of ancient prophetic texts, the Nephilim, UFOs, and other topics. He's written 12 books, including the notable Nephilim trilogy, which became a bestseller on the Christian Booksellers Association list. His work in this area earned him an honorary doctorate from Dr. I.D.E. Thomas, the provost at Pacific International University. Dr. Marzulli is also recognized for his award-winning documentary film series, The Watchers, which explores various supernatural phenomena, including UFOs and the Nephilim. One of the episodes in the series, Watchers 7, UFO Physical Evidence, won the UFO Best Film and People's Choice Award at the UFO Congress in 2014. In addition to his writing and filmmaking, Dr. Marzulli is a frequent speaker at conferences and on radio and television programs where he discusses his research and theories on the intersection of current events, prophecy, and the supernatural. And Dr. Marzulli, one of the questions that we have today for our audience is, we talked briefly in the past about AI, and you had some very interesting things to say about that. And I'd like to expand on that a little bit. If you can give me an idea of what your view on AI is and where those views may come from.
Well, it's first of all, there's 14 books.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
I got to update the bio, but that's okay. There's 14 books and 30 films. So there's a corpus of work. I'm a born again, spirit filled Christian. Let me explain what that is. So 2,000 years ago, this itinerant rabbi by the name of Yeshua was wandering around Jerusalem. He was filling all these prophecies. What most people don't get is when he comes riding in on the donkey, he is fulfilling prophecy that was written hundreds of years to the split second. It says this: the prophecy is from the time of the decree that goes out to rebuild the temple. Okay, so what's happening is the Jews are all over in Babylon. The Babylonians came in, they destroyed the temple. So now there's a decree that goes out to rebuild the temple. All right, that decree is in the British Museum. You can go and see it. It's right there. So from a decree is issued until Shiloh, Mashiach, Messiah comes, there'll be 70 times 7, 490 years. It's the only time in Jesus's entire ministry where he actually arranges it. He arranges it. And most people don't even know this. Most Christians don't even know this. He comes riding in to Jerusalem on the second, exactly 490 years to the second. He comes riding in as the king. And this is why he then says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I would have gathered you as a hen gathers her chicks, but you did not know the day of your visitation. He holds them accountable because it's right in the book. All they have to do is read it.
Right.
So that being said, I am a student of prophecy, had been for 44 years. Prophecy is different than the fuzzy quatrains of Nostradamus, which you read them and you kind of go, well, I'm not sure what that means. Prophecy is very specific. I'll just give you one. Mm-hmm. And I think your audience will find this very interesting. Written hundreds, actually thousands of years ago by a prophet by the name of Amos. So this has been laying in the dust for, like I said, millennia. And it says this: I will bring back the captives of my people, Israel. Check. They will build the waste cities and inhabit them. Check. They will plant vineyards and drink the wine from them. Check. They will also plant gardens and eat the fruit from them. Check. I will plant them in their land, and never again will they be pulled up out of it, says the Lord your God. Well, 1948, that's where Israel becomes a nation. And I get it. There's all this controversy. Oh, these are the Khazarians, blah, 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 blah. People have no idea of history. They just grab this one thing and they run with it. There has been a Jewish presence in the Middle East from a diaspora in AD 125. They scattered. They were in Iraq, what is now Iran, up in Syria. They were all over the place. So yes, some came in from Europe. I get that. And the Khazarians are real. I get that. But there's this huge influx of Jewish people when 1948 happens. They come back into the homeland. So I'm a student of prophecy. We know that we have some very specifics laid out. in the biblical prophetic narrative regarding the end times. One of the most poignant examples of that is 1945 when we drop, the 509th Bombing Group drops on Hiroshima and Nagasaki the atomic bomb. That changes everything. For the first time in history of man, we have the ability to wipe out with just one single bomb, thousands, tens of thousands of people, just like that. And that's in 45. What we've got now is we can destroy the world 10 times over, whatever it is.
Right.
So right after that, we get this influx of UFOs like crazy. This is where it all starts. This is why the Roswell crash in 47, other UFO crashes following it. Then all of a sudden you hear about the abduction phenomena, then the hybrids, cattle mutilations, everything hinges on 45. Because in my opinion, these entities can see through time further than we can. We're stuck in the space-time continuum. Father God sits out time and space and calls out with great specificity events before they happen, i.e. Amos the prophet, which is one of the examples I just gave you. So the fallen ones can see through time further than we can. There's an analogy I wrote in my book, The Cosmic Chess Match. So we're standing in a field of corn. The corn's all around us. We see the corn stalks in front of us, the corn stalks next to us. That's it. But a fallen angel comes in on a red fire truck and with a big extension ladder, climbs up 2 stories on that extension ladder. That fallen entity can see the entire cornfield plus several cornfields after that. But the God of the Bible is in the space shuttle looking down on the cornfield. He can see the diamond just fell out of my pocket because I have a hole in it. But he also can pan back and see the cornfield, the county, the state of Kansas, the entire United States, and then even further back and see the entire globe. So it gives us an analogy of how time is very flexible. I mean, even Einstein talks about that. And Einstein in physics, I don't pretend to know that, but I know enough just to get me in trouble, that if we could get to the speed of light, or the further we get to the speed of light, which is unbelievable, time begins to stop because time is a fluid property. So that being said, is it possible that these entities know that the time is near, and that's why they're manifesting like crazy? In my opinion, yes. So a line in the sand that we passed in 1945, a line of demarcation, was the nuclear explosions on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We've crossed another line, which in some ways, in my opinion, is even more alarming, because you can't, like the atomic bomb and atomic energy, you can't go back.
Right.
People aren't going to stop. I mean, the Iranians are trying to get a bomb so they can blow the Israelis off the face of the earth. I mean, it's like, this is the crazy world we live in, and they make no bones about it. That's what they say. So there's a line of demarcation in the sand with the atomic weapons being used, but there's another line of demarcation, which in my opinion has it's so complex, and it affects every human being on the planet. Yes, the atomic bomb affected everybody on the planet. I get that. This is different. Everybody is using AI now.
Yeah.
Everybody is using AI. And it's at the point where we cannot tell what is real and what is fabrication.
That's correct. And
that is a line in the sand that all humanity has just crossed over. There's a clip I show with this woman. I can bring it up if you want to look at it, if we can share the screens. Can I try to do that?
Sure.
Let me see if I can make that work. No, you gotta let me. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So you have to do it on your end if you want to see this. Yeah, there she is. I got her all queued up.
You can do it now.
Okay, let me try it. There she is. Okay. So I'm gonna run this clip to you. And it doesn't matter whether she's talking about a recipe for eggplant parmesan or nuclear fission. Doesn't matter. Watch this.
Have you ever maybe you're in that place right now where you want to turn your life around, and somewhere deep in your soul, there could be some decisions that you have to make. Like, it's like something was decided for you. And instead of trying to make something that is done work, it's like the invitation is to make the decision, commit to that, and to start creating what comes.
What we just watched was 100% AI, and you can't tell, and I can't tell.
That's right.
And this is a line. There's another prophecy, Isaiah 59:14. Again, these are just addresses, so I can say, hey, if you go to this chapter in the book, like chapter 5 in Moby Dick, you can watch Queequeg, harpoon a dolphin or whatever, right? So this is just an address. There's nothing supernatural about it. It's just a way of communicating where you find this verse. Justice has turned back, righteousness stands far away. Truth has fallen in the street, and honesty can't come in. It's exactly where we are.
Right.
And the bottom line is, stop the share. So the bottom line is, what I just showed you is 100% AI generated. We no longer can tell what's real and what is fabricated. That's a major, major line in prophetic literature, in my opinion, because the average guy on the street can't tell. And how can anybody be accountable for anything if you don't know what the truth is? So this is why he's got to come back. It's like Star Wars. It's like Obi-Wan Kenobi or our only hope.
That's right.
But that's where we are. I mean, you can't fix this anymore. These guys are so far down the rabbit hole, they have no idea how to get out anyway. Even if they could, they don't care. This is what the writer's strike was about in Hollywood. I mean, and I get this. You can punch in, you can spend a half an hour, just type some stuff, and out comes a screenplay. Ta-da! Now what? So this is where we are, and you can't fix this anymore. But then you add all the other prophetic literature to it. Wars and rumors of wars, check. Earthquakes in diverse places, check. It's unbelievable. And we show this in one of our films. Earthquakes are going up like this. The frequency and the intensity of the earthquakes are rising. Wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, famines, pestilence. I mean, just think of the COVID-19, now the monkeypox nonsense that they're trying to throw. Right. Oh, we're all going to get monkeypox and die. Oh my God. So, this is where we are. So Jesus is telling us this 2,000 years ago to a group of disciples. There'll be troublesome times, don't let anyone deceive you. There'll be wars and rumors of wars, famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, troublesome times. You can go down that checklist, and we're here. Yeah. We are definitely here. But then you look at Israel, which is the timepiece. 1948 sets all the prophetic literature, in my opinion. That's the timepiece. Israel coming back into the land, Amos 9:14 and 15. We might be looking at, underline might, don't know.
Right.
It's like, the analogy I use is like a halftime game, a football game. So it's 21-21 at the halftime. Both teams are equally matched. You can't possibly call it. You can't. You have to sit and watch the game unfold. This is where we are. What we might be looking at is an ancient prophetic text over 2,500 years ago. It's called the Ezekiel 38 prophecy, where a group of nations come up against a land of unwalled villages. Now, when that was written, there's no such thing as a land of unwalled villages. Right. That doesn't exist, because 2,500 years ago, if you wanted to survive, you built the highest, thickest, tallest wall you could possibly do. When it's the Lord of the Rings, folks. The siege towers come in, catapults. It's the whole thing. That's what warfare was like thousands of years ago. Well, with the advent of the airplane, all that's gone. Right. So Israel, I've been there just once. We were actually slated to go back last October 7th. And of course, everything got canceled because of the war. So our On the Trail of a Nephilim tour got scratched, but I digress as usual. So the bottom line is Ezekiel 38 is a group of nations. Russia, Iran, and Turkey are the three leading nations. Just recently, last 48 hours, there were several articles that came across my desk from people who know I'm totally into this stuff. They're coalescing, and Russia has lost face. The mainstream media doesn't talk about it, but Russia got their butts kicked in Ukraine, and Ukraine is now, they're into Russia. So this whole thing is wacky. Putin has lost face. The generals are in rebellion, from what I can glean from some of the stories. It's chaos in the Kremlin, and yet the enemy of my enemy is my friend, ancient Middle Eastern saying. Right. Turkey is no friend of the Iranians, because Turkey is Sunni Muslim. Iran is Shia Muslim. So they've been at loggerheads basically for 1,300 years. Yeah. And that rift has never been repaired. But the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they're all looking at Israel. Israel's the problem here. Yeah. We got to wipe Israel off the map. This is Ezekiel 38. Read that, folks. If you've never, take your Bible, blow the dust off that baby, open it up to the Ezekiel 38. Ezekiel's the prophet, 38, 39. When you read 39, your jaw will hit the floor, because it's written 2,500 years ago, and it talks about after Gog and Magog and this coalition of nations that come against Israel, a land of unwalled villages, dwelling in a false safety, which is exactly what we see.
Mhm.
They don't touch the bodies. They don't touch the bodies. The bodies lay there for 6 months. Then people go out and they just put markers where the bodies are. They don't touch anything. They just put markers. Then professional buriers go out, gather up the bones, professional buriers go out and then bury them downwind by the Dead Sea. Are you flipping kidding me? That's written. It's just like, can you imagine opening that book 500 years ago? I have no idea what the heck that says. But now, because of what we know, we go, oh my gosh, we're talking about a nuclear event. The Samson option, which Israel has already threatened to do, if there's an existential threat against that nation, they will use the Samson option, which is the neutron bomb. They've got it, which is exactly what Ezekiel, because nothing is destroyed. The flesh rots off. In other words, they're killed by the neutron bomb.
Right.
And then slowly they and no one touches anything. This is the idea of the weapons being used for 7 months and all. It's read Ezekiel 38, 39, it'll blow your mind. So we're seeing that beginning to manifest. Has it manifest yet? Also, Isaiah 17, the destruction of Damascus, ancient prophetic text, the destruction of Damascus. So have we seen that yet? No. Damascus is the oldest inhabited city on the planet. So, we're looking at all this stuff as a student of prophecy. I just sit and watch. I can't call it. It's halftime, 21-21.
Right.
You can't possibly call
That's
it.
right.
But I know the prophecies, and I watch it like a hawk every single day. Then you throw the AI thing into it, and now you don't know. There was a report where Kamala Harris was allegedly at a rally, and it was AI doctored. Biden AI doctored. We don't know what we're looking at.
Right.
So how can a human being be accountable to it? And this is why he's got to come back, because you can't fix this. We're at the point where you can't fix it, and then you get all the singularity stuff.
Yeah.
And computer chips in the brain. What is human and what isn't human? There's another ancient prophetic text 2,000 years ago, which talks about the mark of the beast, which talks about people being forced. You're forced to take this mark in the back of the hand or in the forehead. And you cannot buy, sell, or trade without it. Anyone who takes that mark winds up in this really nasty place called the lake of fire. And you say, well, why does the loving God throw everybody in the lake of fire? Because you're not human anymore. If you take this mark, it will change you. You will no longer be a human being.
Right.
The book of Revelation talks about another prophecy, the trading of men's souls. I mean, it's just, you get into this stuff, it's just like, it's freaking mind-boggling. It just blows my mind every day. And we're at the cusp where we might see a dramatic change very, very soon. If there's a nuclear event that goes off, anywhere on this planet. I'm trying to get my handkerchiefs.
Well, if any nuclear goes off, everybody's going to know about it within minutes with social media.
Where did you froze? Where did we leave off?
Oh, we left off that you were going to get your handkerchiefs.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason you froze, but we'll bring it up. So 3, 2, 1. So you get a nuclear event going off anywhere on the planet, and this triggers the greatest climate of fear that humanity has ever experienced collectively. We know that our so-called space brothers, which are not our space brothers, but that's another conversation, they are obsessed with nukes. Why are they obsessed with nukes? Because in my opinion, they know that that's their trigger. Right. That's when they can show up. That's when everything changes. So there's a saying I came up with: we go up, they come down. We go up, they show up. In last year's Super Bowl, can I share my screen again?
Sure. I think you still have permission.
Yeah, right here. Watch this. So where is it? Give me a segundo. Might be here. It's not.
What happens if a mile-wide craft shows up like Washington? Who's behind it?
Well, at some level, the government, the military, and the intelligence community.
It is a threat, and it's going to soon become a global threat, and it's going to require global response.
The UFO phenomenon has become the great off-putting.
We're going to get disclosure accidentally.
An interesting time to be alive. We live in a time where literally the government told us these UFOs are real. We don't know what they are.
The question then is, who are they in contact with? Are they truly extraterrestrial? Has mankind been visited by inhuman entities?
What are your closing thoughts in regard to disclosure?
Floodgates are open, and all bets are off right now.
They're definitely conditioning the masses for some kind of revealing of technology.
Being visited by extraterrestrials.
You look at the late night talk hosts, when they're talking to all the presidents, and they always bring up the question, are you going to tell us anything? If you look at their faces, they know something.
Folks, the phenomenon is not going away. We go up, they show up. We go up, they come down. To warn of what we believe is the coming great deception.
So those are our films. That's the last film in our 10-part UFO series, 9 and 10. And that's the whole idea. We go up, they show up. But watch this. This is called predictive programming all day long, okay? This ad was shown in the 2024 Super Bowl. I'm not making this up. And you don't even know what you're looking at, okay? You have no idea what this ad's for, okay?
Yeah.
Till the very end, then you kind of go, well, I don't even know what that's about. So watch this.
Sure.
Flying saucers are nothing new. These are routine sightings, not isolated events.
Are you seeing that? It's spinning. There's a whole swarm of them. Oh my God. They're all against the wind. All against the wind. Oh, it's 110, 150.
There was an historic hearing today on Capitol Hill and an unprecedented bipartisan push for UFO transparency.
I told you to take Broadway. This always happens.
A website makes it real, Squarespace. You know how much that costs? That is predictive programming. And what we see are not one, we see multiple UFOs over major cities of the world. Right. This is the coming great deception. I've been banging this drum for 30 years. I get laughed at, blah, blah, blah. It comes on the heels of a nuclear event. A nuclear event changes everything. Yeah. It creates the greatest collective fear. So when there's a saying, we go up, they come down, we go up, they show up. The rapture of the church has been, a lot of people, there's no such thing as a rapture. Darby invented this saying, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, just go away. I mean, you believe what you want to believe, okay? But we have biblical precedent for it. When Elijah goes up, his servant Elijah watches him go up. When Jesus ascends into heaven, and I just love this, there's maybe hundreds of people watching it. We know the disciples are there, but they watch him go where? Into the clouds. They watch him go into the clouds. So, I'm always goofing on this thing because Jesus has a great sense of humor. It's another 3-hour conversation, but he does. I mean, I'll just give you one example. He tells the disciples, get in the boats, go out on Galilee. I'll catch up with you guys later. What's the first thing wrong with that statement? Yeah. How's he going to possibly catch up with them? And of course, there's a storm and he comes walking with them on the water, a ghost. I mean, it's just, he's always goofing on them. And the humor is there all throughout the Bible. So the bottom line is when Jesus goes up, does he look down and wave one last time? Does he kind of flap his arms like a bird and kind of goofs on it? We don't know. But he goes up into the clouds and disappears. The future. In the book of Revelation, we know that the two witnesses are killed and their bodies are displayed on the streets of Jerusalem. That's future. It hasn't happened yet. But then they're resurrected. Where do they go? They go up into the clouds. Into the clouds. Fatima, what came out of the cloud was a UFO. It was a UFO event, in my opinion. Very controversial. We have two films on that. A lot of people hem and haw, and it's like it was the Virgin Mary. Nothing to do with Mary of the Bible, in our opinion. So people can believe what they want to believe. I'm not going to argue it. But if you want to look at the evidence that we uncovered, this is quotes from the people who were standing in the field. I looked up and saw a dull silver disc. Well, what the heck is a dull silver disc in 1917? It's not Mary of the Bible.
Sure.
It's not. It's a UFO event.
Right.
And and then there's all this other stuff we don't have time. There's two films. That's a 2-hour, 2.5 night, 3-hour discussion. We don't have time for that. That's why I make these films. People, you got to do your homework. You go to lamarzulli.net. And you can go to our streaming site from there and watch all this stuff for $5 a video. You can watch the video. So there's 14 books, 30 films, but I digress. So when we go up, and Bruce, you got to understand this. I heard this 50 years ago.
Really?
50. I heard this 50 years ago that some people would not be ready for the supernatural spiritual paradigm shift that our space brothers are going to bring. So we would take them off planet. I heard this 50 years ago before I even knew anything about the rapture of a church or what was written in prophecies. So you say, well, that's not in prophecy, Larry. Yes, it is. Listen to this. The Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, with the trump of God. The dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain will be caught up together with those where in the clouds to be evermore with the Lord. So it's right there in plain sight. And what's interesting is, people go, what? How do the dead in Christ rise? I don't understand that. A human being is opposed of flesh,
That's right.
body, soul, and spirit.
Right.
So when I die, my spirit and my soul go to him, go to Jesus. And I'm in eternity, but my body's still here.
Yeah.
So when the rapture happens, that body is reunited and I have a glorified body. There's no, how does he do that? I don't know. What button does he press? It's supernatural on steroids, but if we're, as Christians, if we really believe in what's in the guidebook of a supernatural, i.e. our Bibles, men walking on water changed to wine, floating axe heads, talking donkeys, women who give birth and they're supposed to be a virgin. I mean, it's like, hello, we get into all this stuff and it's like, this is a supernatural realm, which completely blows the scientific method out of the water. So circling back to AI, this to me is the final tent peg, but whatever analogy, final nail in the coffin, whatever you want to, analogy you want to use to it. You can't fix this. Well, and the fact that we no longer can ascertain truth from fiction is incredibly alarming.
Well, and with AI, they're making superhumans, because if you can operate a computer with your thoughts,
Bingo.
Right, that is not something that an average human can do. So
Singularity.
We've got one foot on the bridge of AI and of spirituality, and they're actually going to intersect at some point, and nobody knows because you can't predict the future. AI is moving so fast that we can't even keep up with it. And it's as soon as it crosses that point of either having some sort of consciousness or the human adopting it, and it's probably going to be a superhuman because that's more likely. And then when they're smarter than us, then there's no turning back.
No turning back.
And it's going so fast that I've read a lot, of researched a lot, and I know the back end of AI. It's a database and a chip that's faster than anything we know, because now we have the technology to run that, right? So when that combines with a human, and they can think faster, talk faster beyond what we can comprehend, then there's two different standards, and this one is not human, and this is the human down here, and that's the point there's no return from.
Yeah, and this is why he's got to come back. He has to. He's got to come back and fix it and stop it. He has to.
Or he could just watch it for a while and say, look what you guys did. That's funny.
No, he's not going to do that. No, he's got this is what I mean. I mean, we've gotten to the point, and this is why that whole chip, anyone who takes the Merc winds up in a lake of fire. Does
Yeah.
that chip have something to do with AI? It very may well. You know, we took out an implant from a man who was abducted. We're the only Christian group ever to do that.
Sure.
And of course, I was laughed at. There's no such things as implants. You know, there's no physicality.
Oh, yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. It's like, excuse me. You know, we were there. Were you there? Did you talk to this guy? You know, did you take the implant and look under a scanning electron microscope and see what it was? No. So, you know, unless you can do that,
Right.
you know, what are you're just spouting ignorance and arrogance. You have no idea what you're talking about. There's a physicality, and these entities have spent an inordinate amount of time creating these implants, because the one we took out at that time was about 40 years old.
Mhm.
And that was number 17. But the one prior to that was a very new implant that the late Roger Lear took out. And you couldn't cut that with a diamond saw. Our implant, we could cut with a razor knife. That's how malleable it was.
Yeah.
But the last implant he took out before that was whatever the alloy was, it was so hard that they had to go to a laboratory and cut it open with a laser.
Really?
Yeah. So there's an evolution of these things. And unfortunately, the guy who's got them, he's got all the implants. He won't share them with anybody. So once again, you know, it comes to a screeching stop.
Hmm.
It's just, you know, because I have funds to take number 16 and really do a deep dive on that and find out what we're looking at. So, you know, there's only so many hours in the day. And right now we're working on a film on the Holy Fire, which has been hidden from Christians in the West for basically 2,000 years. Nobody knows about it.
Well, what's
And
that about?
Well, it happens. It's happened for the last 1,700 years. It's been documented for 1,700 years. And the only reason why it didn't happen for 2,000 years was when Rome, remember, Jesus is crucified AD 33. So you've got this narrow window of time.
Right.
Rome comes down, they kill 1 million people, they destroy the temple, that's it. It's the end of the deal. So then in 125, the Bar Kokhba revolution happens. Rome comes in, this is it, it's over. And they just raise everything. They build the Temple of Venus on the site of Calvary. They build the Temple of Venus there, the Temple of Jupiter on the existing Temple Mount. So that's it, till Helena comes in around 300. So now you're in the 4th century. So the whole thing is hidden. So Helena goes, where's Calvary? The remnant knows where Calvary is. The locals do. It's underneath the Temple of Venus. They deconstruct the Temple of Venus. They find the tomb. They find Calvary. They find where the cross was put. They find the split in the rock, the whole thing. It's all there. So you can go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and it's all there. It's been uncovered.
Really?
So for the last 1,700 years, on Holy Saturday, this fire comes down through the roof of the basilica and lights all the lamps on fire. Lights all the lamps. And now it's changed somewhat. There's still light going, and we've got film of some of this stuff. This is our next film. We hired a film crew to go into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre about 3 weeks ago, and they went in with an iPhone 15, and that was Moishi holding the iPhone 15 and filming everything. Looks like a tourist, and then David's on another iPhone. We're zooming. And I'm going, okay, stop, go to the Eticule, go here. No, give me a close up of this. So we're directing it from our studio here in the Santa Monica Mountains. Unbelievable.
Very interesting.
Technology is incredible.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it got to the point with the Muslims where all these Muslims were coming down from Syria, like circa 700, 800, 900, right, before the Crusades. And they were all freaking out because they saw the Holy Fire, and then they would convert to Christianity, and the caliphs going, oh my God, what's going on here? So one year they stop everything. They forbid anybody to do anything. They change all the wicks in the lamps to lead. So they pull all the wicks out, change all the wicks to lead. Holy Fire comes down, lights all the lamps. They blow the flames out, and the Holy Fire comes down and lights it again. So the third time they just finally give up. It's like, okay, surrender. So now, according to the Greek Orthodox priest who goes in to the Eticule is a building that surrounds the slab where Jesus' body lay. That's what it looked like. That's the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now what happens is this, and on the day before Resurrection Sunday, this blue flame comes up, bluish white flame, and it undulates like water over the slab, and then it turns into a pillar of fire, and then the priest lights his flame. And we have it on film, so you can go out with the holy fire, and you can take a piece of linen like this.
Mhm.
This is what Julio Fanti did. So there's your piece of linen, and over here is a normal candle. Over
Yeah.
here is a candle lit by the holy fire. This flame goes right through the linen like that. This flame scorches it, doesn't burn, only scorches it. It's all documented. We have it on film. Giulio Fanti, we did an interview with him. He wrote a book on this with Bob Safka. We've interviewed both of these guys, and this is our next film. It's like,
That's
go figure.
that's
I
going to be an
know. I
interesting
mean,
film.
just like, why me, Lord? It's like, it's just like, why me? So this is what the shroud looks like.
Okay.
So when Secunda P in 1898 takes the first picture, this is what, remember, he's got a old box camera with glass plates, right?
Sure.
1998.
Yep.
So now he takes the glass plates, goes into his dark room. He's developing with the solutions. He's developing the glass plates. This is what comes up. It's a
Yeah.
positive image. And he almost drops the glass plates. He can't even believe it.
I believe it.
Yeah, he can't even believe it. So this is why. And when you look at the shroud, the forensic evidence here is, look at the scourge marks. He was brutally whipped to the point of death. You don't come back from that. You don't come back from that. And then the crucifixion, which is why he dies about three hours after he's been put up there. I mean, it's one of the most, in my opinion, I can't think of anything more horrific.
I can't either.
Because he's scourged within an inch of his life, and they drive the nails not through the palms, but down like this, so it goes into the wrists, and that's what enables him to hang. And then the feet are one on top of the other. A single nail goes through there.
Yeah.
So he's hanging like this. In order to breathe, he's got to lift himself up. So now the feet. Can you imagine pain? To take a breath, he's got to go, well, he's got to lift himself up like this and then let himself down just to take a breath. It's an excruciating, horrific way to die.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, when you examine the forensic evidence on the shroud, it's, I'm in the film, so I was reading up on it before bedtime. Maybe I shouldn't have done that.
no,
It's
not a
very,
good
very
time.
not a good time. Very, very sobering. So, I mean, in my opinion, the late Russ Dizdar, my battle buddy, used to call Yeshua, Jesus, the hero of humanity. And we're not talking about religion here. That's what people don't
That's right.
understand. It's
That's
not a religion. It's a relationship with him. And that happened to me 44 years ago, and my life has never been the same since. And now we're doing a film on the holy fire. Go figure.
That's going to be an interesting film. We'll have to watch for that when that comes out. So, Ellie, I think AI is the propagation of this. We've probably got maybe 5 years at the outside, 10 years until we get to that point of the humans and AI combining to be this undeniable super force. And it's right now it's those that can afford it. And soon it's going to be at a point where it's those that want it and can afford a more reasonable price. And it's interesting that it's a projection right now, but the projection is that more and more people will want to do this because it's more about ego and what I can do versus what's the right thing to do. And that's really what I'm trying to get, the message I'm trying to get out there is that we need guardrails on this, regulations. Otherwise, you can't, as Elon Musk says, you can't build a nuclear bomb in your garage. So why should AI be hands off and let everybody do what they want with it? Because it is a danger to humanity if left unchecked. It really is.
And I concur. The question is, does a person, when they integrate with this technology, do they in fact become soulless? Do they lose this?
That's the question. they've done one, they just did their second. And of course, others with different technology, thin film or nanobots that go in the blood that they can read, they can program a person or, work with their thoughts on that. There's different ways that are coming out, but it's so unnatural,
It is.
right?
This is again, this is why he's got to come back.
Yeah,
And there's actually a prophecy. Unless those days were shortened, no flesh would survive. And that has very powerful meaning to it. Unless those days were shortened, he's talking about the tribulation
yeah,
of those days, and he's right. But on the other hand, you could also say that um, you know where we're going with the whole idea of singularity and superhumans. This is what they want. They're all into this. They want this. They and the idea, the quest for immortality. Well, the quest for immortality is here.
right.
Believe on him and you'll have eternal life. I mean, he said, people go, well, that's just how do we possibly test that? Well, you'll find out soon enough.
Yeah,
When you're on your deathbed, you're going to find out exactly the way
that's right.
everything works.
Everybody
And
does.
yeah, I mean, you're going to find out real quick. So I just think that we're in a window of time that is absolutely unprecedented. I
Right.
watch Israel and what's going on there like a hawk.
Mhm.
I think that's the gateway. I also watch the supernatural manifesting in ways that we've never seen,
That's right.
and we are in a window of time. I've said this before, that is absolutely unprecedented, completely unprecedented in all of history.
And it's pretty much off the rails because in the
It
past we had a space that we could work in and that's all we have. And now we're enabled by so much technology and so many other teachings that really, if you put the effort that you'd put into, Yahshua and praying, and you put it in another direction, you can get results there, but it's not the right way to go. If if you're looking to get eternity, because this is fake, right? It's based on ego instead of being based on God.
Yeah.
Because whenever you try to short circuit, particularly with this technology, you have better chances of getting the result you want, but your division, you're going away from everything. And if you go to God, it's a it's a combination. You're including, and if anything that doesn't include divides, and we're dividing more than we've ever divided in the past right now.
I concur.
Yeah.
Um, things are growing. I always say this publicly. Think the world is getting worser and worser, and then I go, is that? But it is. I mean, when you really look at everything,
It is.
it's like you can't put the genie back in the bottle, whatever analogy you want to come up with. But that's where we are, and this is why, again, um, I think the return is imminent. I really do.
I
I think
think
the
it's
joke we
eminent, and
have.
I think it's needed. Because
Well, it is. It is
because
very much.
if it doesn't happen, then we're going to be in a space that nobody expected us to be in, and it's really the survival of the fittest at that point.
I think. Look, I'm not a date setter, but I think it's going to happen next Wednesday. That's the. And I say it every week. I think it's going to happen next Wednesday. You know, so here we are on Wednesday, and we'll see what happens here.
Well, we're getting very close with global events and with everything that's happening. And then just throw AI in there as a kicker for
Yeah.
making it more complex.
Mhm.
And the answers are simple. They're actually simple and they're easy to attain. But a lot of us take the complex way because they want to create wealth and dominance, and you want to be at the top of the heap all the time, and that's the wrong way to go. The right way to go is inclusion and to help humanity. And those that don't do that, well, I don't know. I'm working on a TEDx talk right now. I'm applying and I'm writing my book, and my website's going to support that with other posts. And I just hope that the message gets out and more people understand you know, the message we're trying to deliver versus the message that's mass media out there right now.
Yeah, and eventually all this is going to come to some sort of a head.
It
It's going to,
is.
and I think we're close. I jokingly it's going to happen next Wednesday, but you can't. 25 years ago, I used to say we can fix this.
Yeah.
We can make a difference. Now it's like you can't fix this
You
anymore.
can't.
You can't fix it. And I realize that sounds like an incredibly defeatist attitude. I'm an optimist. I'm not I'm not a pessimist. I'm not, we can make this work. I get that, but you can't fix this anymore because we've crossed too many lines of demarcation.
That's right.
And AI, to me, AI is the final line, and that's it. And maybe, just maybe, that chip, that Elon Musk and everybody's talking about, that creates this singularity, maybe that has something to do with the mark, maybe. But again, the reason why those people are tossed into the lake of fire because they're no longer human. Just like thousands of years ago, when the decree comes out to wipe out those tribes in the Levant, they're all Nephilim tribes. Well, someone like Richard Dawkins, with all due respect, he's a brilliant man, at least as a geneticist, and he knows that this thing, the complexity of the deoxyribonucleic double helix of life, the spiral of life, just didn't fall out of some tree someplace.
That's right.
So he looks to ET as our progenitors, as our creators, and I get that. And then he looks at the Bible and he points to specifically the conquest of the Promised Land. What he doesn't understand is the Genesis 3:15 seed war, which is there. Your seed, your offspring, talking of a dragon, will be at war, at offspring with the woman. The one coming from the woman, the Messiah, will crush the dragon's head. That's Jesus 2,000 years ago. But in the meantime, when the tribes of Israel go into the Promised Land, well, the tribes of the Nephilim are there. This is the seed war fully manifesting. And these entities, these Nephilim tribes, they are soulless. They are soulless. It's not genocide. They are not human beings as we know human beings. They are without souls.
Right.
Fast forward to the UFO phenomena with the abductees and the modern day hybrids. We've got people on film, in our fourth film in the series on abductions. It's like Karen Wilkinson says, it's like they're looking for a soul. How many times we have to hear this? They're soulless because the enemy cannot create a soul. He can mess with the genetics, but he can't create a soul.
That's right.
And there's a say I came up with a while back. And when I said it for the first time, Karen Wilkinson was there. She was just blown away. But the eyes are the windows to the soul. We've all heard that. The eyes are the windows to the soul. They never get the eyes right, Bruce. They never get the eyes right. This is why the black-eyed kids, this is why the eyes that go serpentine, this is why they never get the eyes right. They can't because they're soulless. They're soulless. So, I get it. A lot of this research is not for the faint of heart. And some of it is conjecture. I will readily admit that, but it's based on, the biblical prophetic narrative. That's what it's based on.
And it's based on what some of the things we know also from experiences, which it's hard to prove that because it's an experience, and you can say it, but it's up to anybody whether they want to believe you or not. It's true, but everybody else, it's up to them. So from today forward, I think with the rate that AI is going, which is it's a line in the sand, there's no question about that, to the point where these singularity hits, which will very likely be singularity in a human where the chip and the human are symbiotic. That's years away. It's not decades away. And I think that's the time.
I would posit that it's not years away. It might be months away because they're not tipping their hand. The guys down in some underground lab someplace, they're not writing, weekly updates. Hey, we're getting closer. They're not doing that. I think it's much closer. I really do. Could be wrong, but I think it's much closer.
And I have no idea, except that to me, it feels like it's close, but I don't know what that means. Right.
I don't either. And I concur with you. It's just, we're in this unprecedented period of world history where anything can happen.
That's true.
So, it might be very, very close. It might happen, this fall. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I concur with that because it's anybody's guess at this point. Well, LA, this has been a wonderful podcast. I appreciate your insights and your knowledge on this. It's fascinating. Um, where can people find you?
lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.com. There are 30 films, 14 books. You can rent the films by going to streaming.lamarzulli.com. You can rent a film for $5. Folks, you need to do your homework. You need to do a deep dive. Bruce and I, and thank you for having me on. We spent an hour, but there's 30 films. Think of the body of work. 14 books. Number 14 comes out in October. We're very excited about that. The rungs of disclosure. But there's so much work. Let me just give you whet your appetite. This is On the Trail of a Nephilim. It makes a great paperweight, but it's also got, over 300 pictures in it. What is it? Over 350 color images. And let me just show you something. This is the picture I discovered out on Catalina Island. And what you're looking at there is Ralph Glidden, and that's a 9-foot giant in front of him. It's one of the few pictures that we actually have that show what I believe is a 6-fingered, red-haired Nephilim in modernity. So It wasn't that long ago that guy was roaming on the island of Catalina. And I see that island when I come down my canyon. There it is. So it's not that far away.
And then, there are those that are still roaming, but that's a whole other topic, right?
That's a whole other topic. The Kandahar giant. We won't get into that. But thanks for having me on, Bruce. Really appreciate it. lamarzulli.com. And thanks, folks, for watching.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, send me a link so we can send it out to all of our people this Friday.
I will do that. I'm going to send this out to be smoothed out. And then I'll have this probably within about a week and I'll send that out to you.
Please do. Sounds good.
I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. God bless you, Bruce. Take care.
God bless you. Okay. Bye.